And this is what I was talking about. Where do you find opportunities in the environment? What's the number one opportunity? The customers. What do you do with these customers? You turn them into your segmentation and targeting. What is segmentation? Segmentation is dividing the customers based on specific characteristics. Do you randomly select these characteristics? No, you select the characteristics based on what you've seen are the opportunities in the market. Opportunities are not ideas. Opportunities are what you are offering as facts that you can take advantage of. Opportunities are not what you are going to do. So remember this for Saturday. Don't tell me, we did this, the group made that mistake in the draft. Only 1 out of 4 made that mistake, but still, you want to make sure your opportunities are facts. Now, I have some new examples that I want to show you. For example, you haven't seen that one. So California Closet is very famous for building shelvings and interior practical convenient drawers and wardrobes and all of this. It's called California Closet, but it's available everywhere in America, not just in California. Now, just as a case study, post-COVID-19 pandemic, office buildings saw a drop in occupancy leading to rent reduction. So less people are using offices. Just as a fact, respondents from a recent survey reported better than expected work from home experiences, along with higher productivity. From a source on a date, the share of home-based workers more than tripled from 2019 to 2023, according to the US Census Bureau, with women making the majority of the people that are working from home. After abandoning their offices at the start of COVID-19 pandemic, employees are now selecting to work from home more often than before the pandemic, from McKinsey company. So McKinsey is one of the biggest consulting firm in the world. What should California Closet do with this information? Well, that's what they did. California Closet are now offering offices, home offices, which are built in with the rest of the different accessories and options that they're selling. So based on opportunities and change, the fact that people now are doing home-based, they created products for people to be home and have the possibility of having this office inside the home. Always, you create a product because you know that there is a need, and the need is usually customer-based. It's a change in the environment that you can take advantage of. So I haven't finished working on this, but there's a change in our society which has started. I don't know when it has started. I'm studying this because it's very interesting consumer behavior. It's the change, sexual change within our society, our Western society. And today is Valentine's Day, so that's kind of a very appropriate subject. But sex life has totally changed. In fact, having sex is going downhill. Less and less people are having sex. Less and less people are having sex because of many different factors. One is they're busy with their phone. 2 is they're busy on social media. 3 is they Uberize. They stay home, don't go places. 4 is there is a different relationship between men and women. Women are become huge consumer of sex, and therefore men became some kind of provider. So the romanticism within women has gone down, and therefore they're looking for just a very sort of a convenient sex, and not so much the romance anymore. Men have become scared of women, and they're worried about women retaliating legal aspects, and so they are essentially staying more away from women, and they don't go into seductions. They are scared of women. They're worried about getting into seductions that it turns against them. So what's interesting with all of this is that's also been fueled by online porn, which has became huge, and it has also contributed to all of this because people fantasy have changed. So people fantasy have changed in a way that it has become somewhat dangerous because pedophilia before used to be mostly men, and men over 50. What's interesting now is you find a lot of 20 years old men who are engaging in pedophilia. And so the reason is explained for this is that they are getting into more extreme sex that they're learning from porn, from online porn. So it's not like here's a guy, here's a girl, and they took sweet and then they have sex. No, someone who is 30 years old has increased their understanding of all the different facets. So this has changed a lot of things, and it has changed the relationship between men and women, and therefore people are looking for more. It's more and more and more, but it's not a personal relationship. It's more and more and more of what's available. And what it does is it also creating some impossible relationship, because what they see in video or video games or sexual video games, it does not exist. But so this is in a way an opportunity. I mean, if you are in the sex toys industry, it's fantastic, because since people are not having traditional sex, they're having individual sex, and they're having on-demand sex. They're buying more and more sex toys. But what also it has done is to the literature has totally changed. Now the most sold novels are called erotic romance. So, for example, the one on the left is the most sold novel in France right now, and it's written by a 24 years old woman who actually is a Muslim. So all of this doesn't make any sense. And who wrote this sort of porn romance, which is the most sold on Amazon French speaking. And then on the one on the right, that's one that's pretty old. That is now this person has created a 20 volume. So this is the number one, but now we are up to 20. And so these are the most purchased books. And what's interesting is most of those books are purchased by women who are buying erotic books. And what's also very interesting is that most of the erotic situation in those books are situations where women are being sort of dominated. So this whole thing is really changing, and it's changing all the values and the relationship. And so therefore you have a movie such as Barbie, which someone 20 years ago would have said it was never going to happen. 40 years ago, they would have been laughing so hard. Now, not only they're happening, but they are the most watched movies, people favorite. And there's probably going to be a number 2, a number 3, a number 4, and people are going to go crazy about these movies. But other movies like 50 Shades of Grey, very successful with different renditions and video games that go into it. So when you think about opportunities, it's very important to understand the impact that the society has on people's, on the cultural trends and the customer and the government involvement, and even the natural changes like the pandemic has also fueled this situation, because people were home and they were already going in that direction. So it has further changed the way they think. So I brought this example. I don't want you to think that I'm a sexologist or a sexual expert. I'm not. I'm a marketing expert, and I'm trying to understand the society I'm living in order to better serve this society, and maybe to help them when there's the situation that I find a little bit extreme, but also to be able to understand them. So I go back to something very simple, like injury law firms. So you've all heard of this. And if you're an injury law firms, where do you advertise? Well, you advertise on billboards along the freeway. Why do you do that? You do that because that's where people have accidents, and right away they remember those names and they call them and say, my neck hurts, my back hurts, I can't move my left hand, my fingers this and all this. So accident lawyers are there for that, and they advertise all over the place. But there's other type of things that are opportunities, are medical malpractice. And one reason why these are opportunities is because physicians have to pay a big insurances in order to play and practice. And therefore, they know that if you go after a doctor, there's a big insurance, and it becomes a battle between the big insurance and the law firm. And the law firm can go into what is called arbitration. And within arbitration, they're almost certain to get some money at some stage before it goes into a lawsuit. So it's kind of a little bit of a sort of not the nicest organization, but that's what lawyers know, the society and the insurance and all of this. But then you have things that happen. Like asbestos is the best thing in the world, and let's put asbestos everywhere in your car, in your home, in your office. And suddenly, asbestos is the worst thing in the world. So then the government makes a regulation, you cannot build with asbestos. Then the regulation becomes like, well, you have to remove asbestos. And then the lawyers find, why is the government doing that? Well, because of cancer. One paper, two paper, three papers, many papers, recognition of the phenomenon. And then there's class lawsuits which are attacking the asbestos. And you can see all these kind of things with prosthesis and breast enlargement and so forth. There's some other examples like Ken Lejeune. And so they advertise it all over the place, from the radio and the magazines, the social media and all this. And they're looking for those Marines who actually got subjected to Ken Lejeune. And Ken Lejeune becomes an opportunity. And another one is Roundup from Monsanto becomes an opportunity. People have used the glyphosate in order to kill some of the bad herbs, and people have used it, and people got cancer, and this is what's happening. In fact, they're using also glyphosate in antibiotics, but most people don't know that. If you go on Google and you put antibiotics and glyphosate, you'll find that there's also an antibiotic. So what, in 10 years or 20 years or 40 years, that will become something that's published in many papers, and the government will ask to be changed. Then the lawyer will say anyone is sick, then they'll find a lot of sick people, and that will be another opportunity for the lawyers. So the lawyers, they know what I mean, but I talk about opportunity. It's some change in the society that now they can go and get some money for. So that's what is very, very interesting. And this goes back to directly those characteristics. You have asbestos, and you have people sick with asbestos, and that's who you focus on. So now let me go a little bit crazy, but I hope you won't think that I'm crazy. I hope you're gonna see that I've I'm trying to figure things out as well with Lolly. So I'm not telling you what to do right now, but I wanted to sort of share the things I'm running into and share it to everyone at the same time. So I'm looking at Lottie, and I'm looking at what she does, and I've this various feelings about the fact that she's a nurse. And again, I'm going to say it again and get everyone's attention. What I'm going to say is very it requires a brain opening, and it's like, be flexible. I'm not saying anything. It's just things that I feel in the air. So that I find that she's a sweet woman, kind nurse. She said that even when she was little, she wanted to do something in health. So I have the feeling that she's someone I would say is compassionate and somewhat gregarious. I mean, she cares of others. She's altruistic. She likes the concept of community. She's religious. Well, no, she's religiously educated, but I don't think she's religious. In fact, I think she's even better than religious, because she believes in God. She doesn't believe in the ritual as much, but God. And at the same time,
Spiritual.
yeah, she's spiritual, and she also cares like of others. And then also she cares of emotions. She cares about her own emotions. She falls in love with someone. She really cares. It doesn't work. She's broken. So she's very, very human, very vulnerable. And so she has all of these things that one may think it's normal, but the reality, not so normal. I mean, she's special for this. She has a good voice. She has all of that. So I have the feeling as someone that already has the DNA of being someone helping others, and that's why I guess she became a nurse. But could she do this in the music industry? So I found all kinds of situations that I run into this week, and this week and last week. But so this one may not mean much to you because it's in French. And so you see, I look at French things and English things and all that. And this woman, she has a channel where she puts videos where she just walks around and talks very with a small voice, and she hugs trees, and she does all this kind of thing. And the first time I saw that, I thought, wow, that's kind of crazy. A woman that hugs trees, talks. now she has quite a huge follower. So I mean, here it's only 32,000, but she has different social media, and now she does events. She says she's going to be in some place, and she has thousands of people that show up to the place, and she goes here and goes there, and so essentially I'm saying, wow, so people are looking for, not big stars, kind people that they want to follow. What is going on in this world? Well, and then I'm starting to see this concept of mental depression and people looking for kind and genuine people to help them, right? And then, because I was interested in this, I suppose the computer started seeing what I was looking for. I ran into this thing called betterhelp.com. So maybe because you've been looking at things, you probably got some ads. Wow, this thing BetterHelp is 35 licensed therapists. We're talking millions of people who go to betterhelp.com to find someone to help them with their therapy issues. Mental this, depression this, all of that. I'm thinking, what a changing world where now people are so much, sitting. They sit and they eat, they sit and get mental help, they sit and they have sex, they sit. It's like nobody moves anymore. And so I'm thinking, could this be a trend? Can she do anything with this? And then I'm thinking also of artificial intelligence. Is there something that could help her that she could be? Because artificial intelligence is going to have an impact on everything in the next 20, 10, 5 years. Could that be connected with this? But BetterHelp seems to get a huge amount of traction. So then I went to the beach. That was, I think, on Monday. I went to the beach on Monday. And then as soon as I got to the beach on Monday, there was a rapper. I don't know if you see that, but there was a rapper that was at the beach giving CDs for free. And as this person was giving CDs, he was explaining that his CD had a lot of music that was supposed to help you if you're depressed. He was focusing on that music to help you when you're depressed. So then what was interesting is I check his social media, and you can tell that this concept of making music for people that are depressed are very recent, because he calls himself Sir Young Duke or Game Green. And I didn't totally understood what he meant by Game Green, but essentially he's just having a lot of dollar bills around him, and he's like, come with me, you get rich. Game Green, and everything I touch becomes green and all that. So she's not really about helping others, it was more about helping himself. How can I get rich fast? Well, do it by taking other people's money. And so then I was like thinking, gee, he may either he's has had a change of mind, or he's just realized that maybe it's better to talk about depression in order to get rich. And that reminded me another perspective that I'm studying because I find it interesting. If you were, imagine you're a gangster, and you're a small gangster in the 80s. What do? You steal auto radios. Many of you are too young to know that, but in the 80s, 90s, when you had a car and you left your car for 30 minutes, when you came back, you was like, do I still have my radio in there? So you are worried. So if you're like a little thief, and you're starting the 101, okay, you want to be a big shot, okay, game one, start stealing auto radio. I don't remember the last time I was worried someone breaks my car to steal my radio. Nobody does that anymore. Not that much. So that's not the thing. So what did they do after that? Well, after that, they went into selling cannabis. That was the opportunity of the time after the radio. After the cannabis, they sell, forget about it. Cannabis, no, it's not worth it. So they sell some other drugs. And they keep changing the drugs that they sell, and it keeps mutating. Now the latest trend of the same group of people that were selling the radio is to prostitute young girls and young boys. That's the new trend. And so that's kind of crazy because therefore there's always a supply and demand. If they're prostituting 15 years old boys, that means there's someone that wants a 15 years old boy. So you don't prostitute 15 years old boy if there's no demand. Because again, the gangster, they don't care what they do. They're just looking for the danger and the return. Once there's no return for the auto radio and it's not dangerous, they're not going to keep doing it because it's not dangerous. They don't mind the danger, but they want the return. So they keep changing. So what I find very interesting in this society is like that. So you may be wondering what I'm talking about. But I'm saying you have to sort of put your head deep, not in a shallow way, in the society right now and think within the music industry, what are the changes that would connect with Lottie? And I think it was last week, someone asked, how much can we change for her? Well, she's Lottie. She's ready to play that role. What role should she have? What makes sense? And so that's why I wanted to tell you this today, because I don't want you to be shy or lack of creativity, lack of depth on Saturday. I would rather have you say things that we all think it's crazy, but we don't want, I'm not going to judge you in the sense that this is too crazy, forget about it. I'm not going to judge you like this because I do not know. You have to convince me that it's not crazy. There's nothing crazy. So why do I want to say that is because I already heard some groups saying, so-and-so says that, I don't agree. So-and-so says this, I agree. So-and-so says that, I don't agree. As if there was some censorship on ideas. You do not want to censor anyone. You want to be very open-minded, and there's no right or wrong answer. It's just, it is, it's on the table. We just don't know. We don't know what anyone's going to come up with. And I won't tell anyone if you come up with something that is amazing. So here, actually, let me give you a real example of something that happened to me when I was a student. The way we do it in France is different in America because what happens is the exam is actually an exam of 4 hours for marketing, like what you did an hour and a half. It's 4 hours. They give you like 300 pages to read on the subject. So the subject was Gillette, the razor, the Gillette razors. And so we were supposed to, so when I did my first bachelor, it was in 92, my first bachelor. So in 92, I went to the final exam and I was supposed to write a marketing plan for Gillette. And we're in a room and we're 4 hours and we are writing by hand in 92. So we're supposed to write 25 pages by hand. And so I looked at Gillette and I read the whole thing, the 300 pages. And there was one little paragraph where there was a guy that said, oh, I'm tired of my girlfriend picking my razor blades, and then I can't find them. And when I find them, they don't work anymore. So I thought this was very interesting because what the project wanted us to do in 92 was, it was Gillette Sensor 1, is they wanted us to create Gillette Sensor 2. That's what I found out afterwards. And they wanted to do the turbo triple XL and all this. That's what has happened from 92 and afterwards. But when I read about this thing about the razor and the girlfriend borrowing the razor, suddenly I said, oh, you know what? I'm going to do segmentation, targeting, and positioning, which is suddenly most of the razors at the time in 92, most, if not, I think it was all the razors, they were all blue and they all looked the same. And every brand had a razor that looked the same. They were for men. And then I said, why don't we create a razor for women? So for those 4 hours, I created a marketing plan for women. I don't know if the corrector was a man or a woman, but the corrector was not expecting someone to write a razor for women. It was expecting someone to create a razor where there was 2 blades, and the creative ideas was to have a 3rd blade. And I don't know if you know, now the razors have 5 blades, but at that time they had 2. So the creative thing is, oh, let's put a 3rd and a 4th and a 5th blade. you know, so that way you have one more blade that you can cut yourself with. But anyway, so then I decided, no, I'm not going to add another blade. I could see that's what they wanted us to do. So I created a woman razor. What was interesting is, so you know, it doesn't make me look good, but I think I got a 76%. I barely passed. I barely passed because, again, they didn't think about women wanting a razor. And so I can now say that I was right. The biggest change in the razor industry was not just to keep adding blade, was to create razor for women. But I can't hold it against those instructors, those correctors, because they didn't see this. This was too future forward. So I've learned the lesson from this. I'm humbled. I try to stay humble. I don't know the answer, but you have to convince me. I'm open to everything. Do not restrain yourself to give me a vanilla ice cream on Saturday. You don't have to, but you need to come up with opportunities. So now let's go back to something very simple. I met this gentleman who came from Syria. I don't know if you know, but Syria went through a very tough war. And so he lost everything in Syria. You know, he was an accountant in Syria. He lost everything. He came to America because he had some cousins there. And he was lucky enough that one cousin gave him a few $1,000s. And then he took this small liquor store, which looks the same as the other 10,000 liquor store in Los Angeles. But when he got this liquor store, he decided that he was not going to be just a nobody with a liquor store. So he started looking at the environment, and he found that it was the liquor store that you would have to come out. When you come out to go to Big Bear, the ski resort, or Lake Arrowhead, when you come out, you actually come out on the exit, which is just next to his liquor store. So then he said, oh, what do the people who go to Big Bear and Lake Arrowhead in the summer want to drink? In the winter want to drink? Because what I'm going to do is just focus on those drinks that these people like. And then I'm going to put signage, I'm going to put social media about my store, which is just looks the same as a chewing gum and lottery and cheap Budweiser beers. I'm going to change. And what he found is that people who go to this destination have more money, and they don't really like normal beer. They like craft beer. So he started having 1, 2, 3, and then he eventually got the best selection of craft beer in Los Angeles out of those 10,000 liquor stores. He made it a specialty. People had word of mouth every time they would go to Lake Arrowhead or Big Bear. Oh, let's stop at that liquor store, La Bodega, to get those amazing craft beer and a new one. And so he became so successful that he bought a second one, a third one, and now he has a dozen, starting just in less than 10 years. Why was he successful? Because he cared for the satisfaction of the customers and found a change in the environment, something he could take advantage of, and specialized. Very simple. So that's what I'm trying to tell you. Once you understand this, you can apply it to shavers, retail store, any subject can be used. Here's another one, last one. This gentleman is Chinese. He didn't know what to do. He became a student, and he had a grant to go to Europe. So he went to Europe, and while he was there, he started eating cheese. I don't know if anyone knows about Chinese people, but that's not in their culture. They don't eat cheese. So he was exposed overseas to cheese. And because he was curious, he started learning about cheese and trying to figure out, how do you make cheese? So eventually he learned how to make cheese. He started making cheese himself, but eventually, because of his family and so forth, he went back to China. When he was in China, he was just another guy there, and he was not going to go anywhere. But then he decided to say, why don't I make cheese? Everybody told him he was crazy. There was no reason for him to make cheese because nobody eats cheese in China. And he was about to give up, but then he started saying, well, I'm not thinking of selling it to the Chinese people. I'm thinking of selling it to the foreigners, people who are from Europe and America and live in China, and maybe they would like to have their cheese, because imported cheese from Europe and America is expensive in China. I couldn't make it there. I know the recipe, and I can start doing this. So he started doing this. And as he started doing it, he struggled a lot because those people didn't know that there was a Chinese person making cheese. And eventually he started becoming successful, and now he's a billionaire. He's one Chinese billionaire whose specialty is to make cheese in China for all the foreigners. And there's hundreds of thousands of foreigners. And so they eat his cheese, which is much cheaper and a fantastic cheese made by Chinese for foreigners. What's interesting, because now he's been doing it for about 10 years, he's also starting to sell it to the Chinese people who went overseas and they wanted to keep eating the cheese, and now they're in China and they're buying Chinese-made cheese for the Chinese people there and for the non-Chinese that are looking for the cheese. So that's what I'm trying to say, is that it's the same thing. Is who is there? What are the people? What do they want? And so forth. So what should you do? Well, she's in LA. She's in America. What are the changes? That may have nothing to do with anything that we all have discussed. But there, you can make a connection, and you can make a connection that generates a strategy. Remember that? In fact, last Saturday, you've done a great job making the connection with a strategy. And I tell you, it's very simple. Market development, product development, diversification, market penetration. These are strategies. So find an opportunity, make a connection to a strategy. You can go back to the slides and you find I've made some recap on the basic strategies that covers 99% of the situation. Make sure you say, this is the opportunity that connects to that strategy, and here are the ideas of the tactics that we're going to do. If you do that, that's a big hallelujah. I know there will be at least one group that are going to be blowing me away because they understood opportunity, strategy, tactics. At least one group. I know that in the entrepreneurship class, because I would have bummed, I don't know, I would have sort of gave you so much headache with this. The first week of entrepreneurship, you'll have to do that. You won't have, 2 weeks to do that. You'll have 1 week. And everybody does extremely well on that 1 week. Now you're still learning, but try to push yourself. Now, be nice to the other member of your group. Do not ostracize anyone. Be open-minded. Listen and talk. Give everyone some chances. There may be even some people that say some things that are brilliant, but they don't express themselves correctly, or it's not very clear what they're trying to say, but they have a good sense, and you want to help each other. Do not think that this can be done alone. It cannot be done alone. It has to be done by having a conversation. And I know it's a class. I know it's some units that you're trying to get in order to complete your master, but it's a very interesting process. It's a necessary process. It's a great training process for what's to come in your life, which will require those exact skills. If you want to succeed, you're going to have to do it for real. So you may as well start practicing now. That's all I have to say. And I enjoy it every time I do it. It is difficult sometimes because which opportunity in such a difficult market within the music industry. But I think she has a lot to offer. She brings some very interesting angles. I think the rapper I was just showing you, he gave me the feeling of not being very genuine about trying to help others. And then when I look at the social media, I could see it's an opportunist more than someone who's genuinely focused on helping others. The question is, who's helping others in the music industry, maybe to start? Who is helping others in other ways than the music industry? And who is genuine about it? So then you may say, oh, should we study some religion leaders? Should we study some cult, some ritualistic things, some things that people are doing in order to feel better? Should we look into all this thing about being spiritual and using family? I don't know. All of these things are really what's open to discussion, and that's one direction. You may find something totally different. I'm not pushing you in this direction. I'm not going to give you a better grade if you do what I say. I'm not this kind of person. You get a great grade because you have an idea that you are defending, and your argument and reasoning is fantastic. That's how you get a good grade. Not for doing what I say. I'm not narcissistic. You know, it's not about me. It's about you finding the right solution for the client with a really good scaling planning of how to go about it. And that's really what it's about.
I like the concept of the women of the blades, the shavers for women, though. That's groundbreaking.
Yes, yes. So yeah, so think about the product, but don't over focus on the product. Focus on what the product is satisfying and how much people are going to like it versus what already exists. What she's doing that is better than already exists. So be careful of not being too overly focused on the product. Oh, she's going to do this and then this, and she's going to become this. That's what she's going to look like. That's what she's going to sing. That's too much focusing on the product. More interesting is almost like a fly on the wall, looking at the people and making a description of these people. So that's what segmentation, targeting, and positioning is about. And that's the presentation that you are doing when you're talking about the persona. So this is the persona that we're going to hear. I believe it's next Wednesday. There's a group that's going to come next Wednesday and talk to us. I don't know,
Oh,
it's hardcore. Yeah.
real quick, I just wanted to talk about I went to go see the Bob Marley movie today, the
Okay.
One Love,
Yes.
and I was thinking about like his marketing, and it was interesting because there was war going on, and you know, his target was the people that were hurting, the people that were suffering, and he created this like conscientious music and music, like uplifting music, and to target these people that were suffering, you
Yeah.
know.
That's
And
it.
so I was thinking about strategies in his and like
Yeah.
marketing because of the
That's it.
class.
Fantastic. So that's it. You make me so happy because that means you totally understood what I was trying to explain. And I didn't know if I made myself clear, but you absolutely got it. You nailed it.
Yeah.
And so, could there be a Bob Marley woman? Could there be a different sensitivity for a different subject? What is it right now? I mean, there's the war, but it's very rare there's no war. No, it's not the war the problem. Maybe it's this global anxiety,
Mm,
this lack of leadership that the world is suffering. No
right.
matter if you're a Democrat or a Republican right now in France or in America, it's hard to be in love with the people that are the model people we should model on. There's even an issue on modeling with the police, right? There's an issue. And there is an issue in lots of universities and a lot of schools. I can't give details on that and which one, but where the staff and the professors are sort of, getting caught for doing all kinds of weird. Where are the models? People do, and if the family is not the model, if the parents not the model, if so the celebrity. So that's what we're talking about. That could be interesting, and I don't want you to overly focus on her going back to the Philippines. I don't think we're giving her a very good solution by saying, "Hey, we've got it. Get out of here. Go to the Philippines." I think that's not what she wants to do. I think there's other solution. Could she do things in connection and with the Philippines and eventually even build some business in the Philippines while she's here? I think so. But I don't think the solution is to tell her she needs to go back to the Philippines and forget about USA.
Right.
But yeah, so it's projects are not easy because you have to find this situation, this wave that she can catch and surf. Okay.
Got it.
So I was saying, if you look at the samples, all of them have a description of the persona. So I have the one from Alex Ritchie. Oh yeah, I do, but I don't think I've shared it. Share screen, boom, boom. Sorry, I was not on it. So Alex Ritchie, they talk about the persona, and it's just one of them. If you look at Matters or Hardcore, you're gonna get that. And essentially giving you a description of the customers. Who are they? And it doesn't have to be just always starting with age. Maybe for Lottie, the age is not the most important thing. The level of anxiety, the fact that people are in need of in search of spiritual things as well. Some people are, some people don't care. So yes, so that's very good. People, yeah, but do they have to be religious? I don't know. So you do have to research. You have to create this script and this vision of this group and build your sensitivity at understanding the world and the changes, and also anticipate the things that are going to change, so she can be at the beginning of this movement and be right there when it's happening. So I know it's difficult. I know it's early. I know it's this Saturday, but that's sort of, you know, I'm very excited to hear what you're going to present this Saturday. You're not graded. I'm only going to give you some feedback to tell you what I think is best, what I think was not so best, what is missing, what you could do. So it's very constructive meeting on Saturday. Everyone should speak, should have an opinion. You know, those concepts that we work on, it's all about the opinion. That's why I want you to do this. There's Bernice coming on this next Wednesday, discussion about Bernice. What you think is what I care to hear.